Hi everyone, welcome to today's activity challenge. Now today's activity challenge is called the Balance Beam Challenge Part 2. Now, in this one we set it up much the same way as last week, except instead of in the gym, I'm in my garage today. So again, for balance beams, I brought out some bricks that you can line up. I have my 2x4, or if you don't have something like that, you can just use a piece of tape. Again, anything will work as long as you can tell whether your feet are on it or not. Now, balance is something that's very important throughout our lives, but especially when you're younger to high-level athletes, people like snowboarders, football players or soccer players, or gymnasts. Now, some of you may have noticed that in my gym upstairs, I have several snowboards mounted on the wall because I'm somebody who snowboards quite a bit. Now, you also may have just noticed that there were some things on the wall, not sure what they were. They're snowboards. So here's a couple more that I have down here in the garage. Now, why is balance important to someone like me as a snowboarder? Because I ride this board down mountains at very high rates of speed, and I can actually go as fast as people on the freeway. My top speed has been over 75 miles per hour. So at those speeds, if I make a mistake, if I lose my balance, I can not only be severely hurt, I could be killed. So it's very important for me to work on my balance. In football or soccer, it's going to help you be a better player. Gymnasts, for instance, do things on this balance beam that I could never do, like flip over or the splits and many other things. But not only is balance important to high-level athletes, it becomes even more important as we age. One of the leading causes of injury for older adults is they trip and fall and break bones. They lose their balance in essence. And one of the main reasons for that is they're not working on their balance regularly, and they're not doing things like their squats and their strength exercises to keep their muscles and their bones strong. So when they lose their balance, they get severely hurt. So it's something very common in older people, and happened to some of my grandparents actually, slipped going into the shower. Now the more you work on those components of fitness, the more likely you are to be able to retain your balance. Now, there are many ways you can work on your balance, not only such as the Balance Beam Challenge. I have other things in my gym like stability discs, where you stand on them and try and work on your balance. And you could pick up something like this at Big 5 or Target or Walmart. These cost about $19 to $20, so they're not super expensive and pretty fun. You can do lots of different fun things on these, like see if you can go all the way down. Also, something that some of you may have at school, these are balance boards. It's kind of like a skateboard with no wheels. So when I'm balanced, I can stand right in the middle and twist. Now this also works my abdominal muscles and my oblique muscles when I'm on here. And if I lose my balance, I just fall towards the side. So these are some different activities that we can do with balance. Now for today's activity, we're going to continue with the balance beam. I will again be using my 2x4. And this time, instead of placing things on top of our head and going forward, we're going to try and make a turn, and we're going to be carrying items in our hand. Now, last week, our challenge was to make it all the way across with something on our head and make it to the other side. And if you got really good at that, we challenged you to try and go backwards. And the better you get at some of these things, see, I fell there. Everyone loses their balance sometimes. So just because you practice something doesn't mean you're going to get it every time. But that was the challenge last week, going forwards and then backwards. Today, the challenge is going to be to get to the end of the balance beam and turn around and make it back to the other side. See, I fell off again there, so let me show you that again. So we go to the end of the balance beam, and we turn around without your foot touching the ground, and then we come back. Now the turn becomes challenging because remember last week when we talked about if your feet are sideways, you have less of your foot in contact with the balance beam, which means you're more likely to have your foot come in contact with the ground. So we tend to want to keep our feet in full contact with the balance beam. But when you turn, it's hard to keep your whole foot in contact. So you have to make your turn kind of quickly and set your foot back on the balance beam again. All right, so that was the first try. So first try and see if you can make it and just make the turn without anything. Then you can start selecting items. Now to make this even more challenging, what I did with my items is I got two things that were similar, like books for instance. But I got one really big heavy book and one very small light book. Now this is going to throw my body off balance because as I'm holding these items, there's more weight on this side, so it's going to want to pull me that way. So I have to use my muscular strength and balance to stay on the balance beam. I also brought 2 different types of balls. Again, a big basketball that's heavier and a light grocery store ball. And then I brought, see I'm in the garage here, so I got some paint cans. This one's full, it's almost brand new, and this one's almost empty. So a big difference in weight, which will make this more challenging. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the books, and let's see how I do. And again, don't feel bad if you fall off. As you saw in my first little introduction here, I fell off a couple of times, so sometimes you're gonna fall. So here we go, I'm gonna hold the books out here. I've already accomplished this now 1 time without anything. So I got to the end. Can I turn around and make it to the other side? All right, I did it. So I did it with the books. Then you can try it with the balls or anything else. And again, just find anything around your house. Different weights are great, but they don't have to be. The turn is really the big challenge today. Can you make that turn without falling off the balance beam and make it back to the start? So those were the balls. Now let's try the paint cans. Now these will probably be the most difficult because again, this paint can is pretty heavy. This thing weighs probably a good 10 pounds. So this would probably be a little too heavy for most of you, but just select items around your house that you can carry. You don't want to hurt yourself, but it's also a good way to get strong. And then you can switch sides too, so you're evening out. All right, here we go. So let's try with the paint cans. Let's see if I can make the turn. Oh, made it. Almost fell. And made it off with the paint cans. So this is the challenge for today. Again, different items, different weights are great. The turn is the big challenge today. That's the difference from last week because you have to, again, get your foot not in full contact. And if you get really good at that, now you can start combining last week's challenges with this week. So, again, if you practice and get really good. Remember we did the cone last week? And again, you can use anything on top of your head, a beanbag or anything else. So I'm going to do the cone on my head and the paint cans. All right, so I'm going to hold this paint can first. Put the cone on my head. I got to get down now. Make sure you don't look down. If you didn't figure this out last week, whenever you look down, whatever's on your head is going to fall off. So make sure you're just feeling. I can feel the handles. There we go. All right, here we go. Up on the balance beam. Whoa. All right, made it to the end. Now I got to make that turn around. Whoa. Whew, just made it. Now there with the paint can. Oh, I think I count that. I made it. Just barely though. So again, not super easy. It is a challenge. Embrace challenges. Learn to do things that are difficult so you can do exciting things like going down mountains at 75 miles an hour or whatever you want to challenge yourself to do in your life. Balance is going to help you achieve anything athletic. And again, as you age, it's going to be very important for you to stay healthy and strong. All right. Good luck on your challenges. Challenge your brother and sister. Challenge your parents, even your grandparents to do some of the simple challenges because it is important for them to work on their balance too. All right, everyone. Have fun, and we'll see you in the next section.